Hello, I'm Katarina West, a local realtor in Charleston, and this is my husband, Trevor West, a real estate fanatic.
True.
So Trevor actually purchased his first investment property when he was only 20 years old, and since then, real estate has been a big part of our lives. So I just thought it'd be fun to do a video about our experience with real estate, why we love it so much, and how you might be able to get started too, especially in the Charleston market, because it is a unique market. Trevor actually founded the Real Estate Investment Club at the Citadel, and so he's formed a community of cadets who are looking forward to investing in their future.
Yeah, so I founded the Citadel Real Estate Investment Club at the Citadel Military College of South Carolina. And I did that because I wanted to, I don't want to say educate, but I wanted to...
Inspire?
Yeah, I wanted to inspire. I wanted to inspire others that were young individuals that it is possible to own a home, and I wanted to show them the power of home ownership and share them my experience and the benefits that real estate has brought me and our financial life. And specifically, I kind of hammered in on a couple things: FHA loans, VA loans, and multifamily properties. And the reason why I kind of focused on those things for most of our meetings, which, I grew it from, there being no club to us filling up auditoriums and speaking to, sometimes 60 people. We focused on VA and FHA home loans specifically as a vehicle for individuals' first and second and third investments for one reason, and that's to show people that it's possible. So a lot of the students at the Citadel are going to be in the reserves or the National Guard or the military. And because of that, they have a VA eligibility. And I wanted to show them you can buy an apartment complex. You can buy a quadruplex with 0% down. I bought my first apartment complex, $0 at closing. Now, of course, there's something to be said for, taking on that debt service payment as a responsibility. But, I wanted to show them that it's possible, it's doable, and you can do it as soon as you leave. If you are a salaried employee, you can do it with your first pay stub and your offer letter. That's what the lender needs. A few other things, obviously, to make sure that you don't have a judgment against you, something along those lines. And then if you're in the sales career that doesn't have a salary, for example, selling real estate, you need 2 years worth of sales history for them to count that as income.
It's 2 years of tax returns. Yeah, that's why I couldn't buy a property for 2 years after getting my license, which also slowed our strategy down a bit, but it's okay. Bought my first house, and here we are. Trevor has been interested in real estate ever since you were probably, 16?
Yeah.
Do you want to start from the beginning?
Yeah. 15 years old. My dad said that he got tickets to some real estate seminar. It was one of those ones where they give you a little bit of information and then they try to upsell you on another course or coaching platform that's just outrageous. Which, by the way, if you're ever in that situation, every piece of information is free online. You can buy some books. That's as far as I would go. Any kind of network or coach or program, I wouldn't do it unless it leads to an accredited certification. So anyways, went to this thing. Me and my dad were just kind of, we both were like, wow, real estate is powerful. And it was always in my mind. And I had been kind of I call it flipping stuff, buying little motorcycles, and then started flipping cars, buying a car when I was 13, fixing it up, selling it, did that a few times. And then when I was 15, went to that real estate seminar and was like, okay, a property is the next step.
Ironically, he's never flipped a house. He has burred a house, though, which we'll get into later on.
Yeah. I'm definitely a buy and hold guy. Fast forward, I was in the military and knew that I needed to get a property to stay in line with my audacious goals. And so I was actually under contract on a single unit condo and was under contract. Unfortunately, my leadership in the military did not support me acquiring real estate. So I did not end up closing on the single unit condo, but I ended up kind of getting approval. And thank God I didn't just get a single unit, because I ended up closing on a 4-unit 2-bed, 2-bath with a deck quadruplex, and one of the best decisions that I ever made as far as investing goes.
Yeah, and so that was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Granted, it's a different market than here. There's probably more multifamily to find there than here.
Yeah.
And Trevor was able to purchase with the VA loan, so zero down
Zero down.
payment. But you can do it with an FHA or conventional loan too. So there are other low down payment options if you were interested in doing the same thing. So multifamily, and then we moved here, and then he went to school at the Citadel. So then he purchased a single family townhome, the one that ended up burning down. That was our primary residence. And since then, our plan has kind of just been to buy a home with a low down payment. So either 0% down or for me, 3.5% down. And then live in it for a year or two, because you do have to live in a property for a year. You have to intend to live in the property for a year, but we've done that. And then move out and keep that house as a rental property. So that's been our strategy. However, in Charleston, it can be a little hard to find cash flowing single family homes. So when you buy a home and then you move out of it, it might not cash flow right away. So we've had to kind of adjust to that and realize if it just breaks even at first, maybe like doesn't cash flow, eventually our strategy is to get the appreciation of the asset, the home itself, and appreciation of the rental market too. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for an investment strategy.
Originally, my strategy was to go after residential multifamily. So that would be duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes. Once you get into the 5-unit space, that's commercial. My original strategy was to purchase residential multifamily properties that would offset debt to income ratio. So the best case scenario there is that you get a quadruplex. So you're living in 1 unit and renting out 3 units. And those 3 units, the income from those 3 units will offset your mortgage. So your mortgage is paid by those 3 tenants, and then you're living there for free. And because you have those leases within a year, once you've met your requirement of living there for a year with the VA or FHA, you can move out into another, for example, quadruplex, and then offset your debt to income ratio there. And just to clarify, offsetting your debt to income ratio means that your tenants are giving you income so that you can pay the mortgage without it coming out of your, W-2 regular day job paycheck. And whereas if you were to buy a single family home and you didn't have multiple leases, you don't have that income coming in to offset your debt to income ratio. So originally my plan was to purchase a quadruplex, hold it for a year, and then buy another quadruplex, have the income offset my debt to income ratio, and then buy another one, and so on and so forth. I think at this point I would probably have 5 quadruplexes if I stayed in Fayetteville. But Katarina and I were doing the math, and Fayetteville does not appreciate as fast as the Charleston market has. Actually, the Charleston market for the past few years has been in the top 10 mid-sized cities for growth in the United States. So because of that, I think that we're actually to the point where the total equity in Charleston with the 2 properties that we have here in the quadruplex, our total equity has actually surpassed whatever the equity would have been in Fayetteville if I had one. If I had purchased one a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So that has been pretty crazy to be, wetting my feet in the kind of a cash flow style market that doesn't have as much appreciation, and then moving to a market where the cash flow is typically negative. Like you're not going to be you can't just put 5% down on a property and then have it cash flowing every month like you can in Fayetteville. But the appreciation is crazy. And, bear in mind the market that we've seen over the past, 4 years since 2019 has been insane. But nevertheless, compared to the rest of the U.S. market, Charleston has been outcompeting as far as both stability and appreciation goes.
So a few things I wanted to talk about are different strategies for the Charleston market, because you could take it a number of different ways. So you could do what we've done and what we've talked about a little bit, where you live in a home as a primary residence, rent it out, purchase multifamily, which I'll say is really hard to find. And a lot of people have this grand idea as well. So you're in a lot of competition, but still it's a great strategy. So you could purchase multifamily. Or here in Charleston, we have obviously a vacation rental market. But this one, I'll talk about it briefly, is very difficult to get into. In Charleston, there are some very strict short-term rental rules. So even the beach areas now, like Folly, just capped the rental permits to 800, and there were already 1,200 homes that had this permit. So no new short-term rentals on Folly. Isle of Palms is having a vote actually next month for the same thing, to vote for a cap of permits. Downtown Charleston, if you know anything about it, it's already impossible. It has to be your primary residence, and you have to prove it, trust me. And then just all sorts of criteria. And even throughout West Ashley, North Charleston is actually pretty good. Different areas have their own short-term rental requirements. So vacation rentals, Airbnbs can be a really fun idea to do investing, but I would just caution you in the Charleston market, do your research, make sure you know what you're talking about. I do have a video on some of those things, so you can watch that as a beginner's guide, but definitely do your own due diligence. One other thing unique to the Charleston market, which Trevor's kind of talked about already, a lot of investors like to follow the 1% rule. And this rule is kind of like a unicorn in Charleston. It's a great rule in theory. You buy a home for $400,000, it rents for $4,000. Basically, the rent is 1% of the purchase price of the home. And this would typically offset your mortgage, have you cash flowing nicely in general. However, the rent here is just not up to the purchase prices. There's so many people moving here that it throws off the rental market ratio. So that's why we have kind of pivoted into knowing it's a long-term strategy. We're not worried about market fluctuations or the rent being a little low for now, because real estate, if you're doing it right, should be a long-term game. That's why flipping can also be pretty risky, because if the market shifts, bam, you have a home sitting on the market, you might not get all your money back. So we're not too much into flipping, and maybe you can talk more about that and what we do instead with the Burr method.
Yeah, both the 1% rule and Burr were popularized.
There you go.
on a platform, social media, podcast, publisher known as Bigger Pockets.
And Bigger Pockets is awesome if you're looking for some resources.
Yes, that's where you get the free information.
Yes.
Or where you need to buy your books from. With interest rates going up, I would be very surprised if you could find a 1% deal anywhere. And why I say that, because if you look at the difference between a mortgage at 2% compared to a mortgage at 7.5%, the payment can be close to double.
You're saying 2% to 7%? Your payment would be way more than double.
Your payment would be more than double.
Yes.
Okay. So, that right there, it makes it very, very difficult for you to find a 1% property. And then Burr, we haven't refinanced anything, and we don't plan on it because of where interest rates are. But
real quick, are we going to say what Burr stands for?
Yeah, I'll say what Burr stands for. So Burr stands for buy, then renovate, then rent, then refinance.
Then repeat.
Yeah. So buy, close on the house, renovate, get in there. Don't do crazy landscaping. Don't
rip out any kitchens.
Don't rip out the cabinets. Paint the cabinets, right? You're just trying to make it look nice and be livable. And then once you've rehabbed it, maybe you could even add another bedroom, which is a great way to get increased rental value out of a property. And then from there, you rent it out. Now, once you have that rent roll as proof of income, then you can go to the bank and you can ask the bank, hey, I have this asset. It's generating this amount of income. I would like to refinance out of it. I bought it for, let's say, $100,000 and now it's worth $200,000. I would like to take out $160,000 of the total. And now you have a $160,000 loan. You have essentially $40,000 down because that's the value. So it'd be 80% loan to value. And then you get that $60,000 in your bank account to go do another deal. Now, the reason that we're not doing that is because interest rates are so high that if we did refinance, we would be cash flowing negative on all of our properties. And we don't want to do that because we'd like to have a little bit of flexibility. If business takes a hit, if, for example, someone got laid off, we have residual income. There's a few things that I want to kind of go through, and I'll just speed round it because Katarina says we're short on time. There's a couple rules that I have. These are my rules, but I would strongly advise that if you want to do this for the long run, that you listen to a few rules. First off, fixed interest rate. Okay, so if you're going to get a 30-year term loan, get a fixed interest rate. There's a lot of variable interest rate mortgages in, I believe, Australia. Now, I feel for my Aussie brothers and sisters who have variable interest rate mortgages, because when the interest rates go up, so does your payment. And then maybe you can't afford that payment and you lose your home. So don't fall victim to 2008 like our parents did. Get a fixed interest rate mortgage. Your payment won't change. Second thing, have 6 months worth of debt service coverage payments saved up in your bank account. Okay, so that means your car payment, your credit card payment, your mortgage. Ideally, you wouldn't have a credit card payment, but all of your debt, all of the payments that you need to live. And honestly, if you want to be safe, all of your living expenses as well. So whatever your living expenses are and whatever your debt service coverage payments are, have that worth 6 months sitting in your bank account and just keep it there as a, I don't want to say rainy day fund, but when SHIT hits the fan fund. I don't know if you're going to have to blurt that out. And then three is if you're a bachelor or you're a single lady out there, I would highly, highly advise renting out rooms. It's difficult for us to rent out rooms because we're married and we have dogs and
we've done it before and haven't had the best of experiences.
But when you're young, I feel like some of my best memories were with the people that I was living with. So rent out rooms. If you can't afford a duplex or a triplex or a quad, buy a house and rent out your 2 spare bedrooms or your spare bedroom.
And if you have them sign a lease, it can be counted as offsetting your debt to income ratio that Trevor talked about earlier.
So Bigger Pockets refers to that as house hacking.
Right.
So and then if you can buy a duplex, buy a triplex, buy a quadruplex. And I will say, although it may seem more scary to go out and buy a quadruplex for more money than you would spend on a house, that income coming in, it actually makes it less risky than owning a single family home in most scenarios. So if you can, you'd have to talk to your lender, but there are a lot of lenders that will look at a property and they'll say, okay, you know what, you're not an experienced real estate investor, but we're going to say that this property will count 50% of the total rent roll towards your income. So if you are approved for $300,000, you may be able to be approved for $450,000 if it's a quadruplex and they take into account those rent rolls. Fixed interest rate, 6 months worth of reserves, and try to get the ideal is a quadruplex, then a triplex, then duplex, then house hacking. For the simple reason that having income come in makes the property less risky, even if it's more expensive. In most scenarios, talk to a financial advisor.
Yes. Quick disclaimer, we are not tax advisors or financial planners. So obviously talk to someone that knows your finances better, your credit, all of that.
These are my rules. Yeah. These are my rules that I have for myself. I'm sharing them with you. Take them with a grain of salt and talk to somebody that actually knows what they're doing.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast type video. We just wanted to share some of our knowledge about real estate investing. Obviously, there's so much to learn. So some resources you could check out further, like we talked about, biggerpockets.com is amazing. It's free. Don't pay for any $3,000 seminars for real estate. It's all out there. YouTube, there's so many great, Graham Stephan is an awesome YouTuber that, has so much content. So you definitely don't have to make it hard. It sounds overwhelming to try to buy your first property, but if you have the right agent, lender, and mentors, or, even just content behind you, you can make it happen.
Go buy some real estate.